Welcome to the Prodigal and the Priest podcast, a podcast about faith, sports, and two friends from different cultures. Here are your hosts, Joey Scansella and Father Paul Bechter.
Welcome. How's everybody doing? We're back in the house.
Finally.
After
all this time. It feels like it's been a really long time.
It has been.
I have no idea how long it's been. The whole relative time thing.
Well, when did we stop? May?
I don't know.
I don't know. Something like that. So we stopped temporarily once we found out that you were being transferred.
Yeah.
And more, every time I run into somebody, they say, are you guys starting it back up? Are you getting Father Edwin to do it? I was like, Father Edwin, what? And which maybe we'll have him as a special guest.
I think that would be great.
That would be great. So we are back, Prodigal and the Priest, season 2. Strap on your boots and get ready, right? Do you strap on boots? I don't know. I'm not a Texan.
I strap on sandals.
Lace up your sandals. Lace up your cleats and strap in.
It is so good to be back bantering about nothing.
This is really the most we've been around each other in months, really. So we want to get people caught up. This first episode is just the catch-up episode and inform people of a few new changes. So coming up, and we'll explain how it all went down, but Father Paul is the new vocations director for the Diocese of Dallas. Recruiting
all
seminarians. Maybe. And because he travels, because he has a lot of conferences, different things.
Very important.
Our schedule may be a little bit different, but we're going to be producing one podcast, hopefully a week. And with that podcast, we will include times of a topic, questions that pop up maybe about that topic or other topics that you all can still submit. Remember, if you have any new questions for season 2, submit your topics at prodigalthepriest@gmail.com, stannparish.org/PTP. Look at that. Look how easy I remember all that stuff.
I spaced out. I wasn't paying any attention.
There you go. So submit your questions. We would love to hear from you. There's a few to get caught up on from the year as well that we'll go into, but we want to catch up our listeners in case you're like, I didn't know anything changed, or you did know something changed. We're going to give you an inside view to the changes. So when did you find out that you were being moved?
I don't remember. I think it was in May. So in May, I went and it's actually kind of funny story. I went on a silent retreat, and I was gone. I was like completely unplugged. I was a couple miles at a cell signal. There was no Wi-Fi.
This is the one where your car battery died.
No, this is a different one, but same kind of idea.
Just multiple silent retreats a year.
Gotta go on.
Live the life. Every parent right now in the world is like, I can't even get 5 minutes of silence a day, let alone multiple silent retreats. But okay, so
canon law requires it.
Canon law requires it? All right.
Okay. So I was on that retreat, and then when I was driving back on Friday from that retreat, I got back into cell signal, and my phone started to blow up, and I actually pulled over just to check and see. I knew it was going to blow up, but I wanted to see what I'd missed, and I had missed calls from the bishop, like himself, missed calls from the bishop's secretary.
The reason you say that is because in all your years of being a priest, how many times has the bishop personally called you on your cell phone? First time?
It might have been the first time.
It might have been the first time, folks. So you were like, well, I'm either being kicked out of the diocese.
What did I do?
Or I'm in trouble for some type of heresy. They got hold of the podcast and they said, we got to shut this train down.
That was my first thought they are retroactively censoring me for the podcast for some of the hot takes.
Hot takes, because we're so popular.
That's right. So well known. It's still just our mothers listening.
That's right. No, I've been affirmed by that. I will say that more people at the carnival and in this church have been like, you don't know me, but your name's Joey. I'm like, yes, it is. They're like, I listen to the podcast. I feel like I know you. I'm like, that is the point. We want you to know us. And they're like, is it starting back up? I'm like, yes, soon. I've been saying that for 3 months now.
Yeah, me too. The people have spoken. It's what they want. Okay, so I called the bishop back and was like, hey, actually I texted him which
Millennial.
just feels weird. Yeah, but got to embrace a millennial. Had a meeting with him the next week, and he asked me if I'd be the vocation director for the Diocese of Dallas. And it was a big shock because I knew there was a possibility I could get a new position. I'd been assigned to St. Anne for 2 years as parochial vicar. I was kind of just assuming I would be here for a third. It made sense with us getting a new pastor and all. And
we've had that before with like Father Kevin Willoward and a few others.
But it's going to be 2 or 3 years for your parochial vicars for the most part. And
first assignment, usually.
First assignment, parochial vicars. And so I figured, all right, well, probably going to talk about assignments. But Father Edwin, who is our new pastor at St. Anne, if you're not familiar with that, you should check it out because he's doing an awesome job.
Pastoral administrator, excuse me.
That's actually a really important distinction. He's not the pastor, he's the pastoral administrator.
Everybody,
which comes with all the responsibility and none of the rights.
Every time he introduces himself as pastor, I would just like cough under my breath. I'm like, pastoral administrator.
So he had the vocation director job for the last 7 years. And was doing a really fine job, like a really impressive job. I did not expect him to be moved from it. So when I was thinking, like, what are we going to talk about in this bishop's meeting? I was thinking, well, maybe I'll get asked to move into the seminary, or maybe they'll ask me to move to another parish, either as parochial vicar or pastoral administrator, perhaps of a small parish. And it didn't enter my mind that I could be asked to be vocation director. And it definitely didn't enter my mind that I would be replacing Father Edwin and he would become pastor here at St. Anne. So it really worked out in a tremendous way. I think I miss St. Anne a lot, but also I'm kind of just saying that because no, I'm kidding. I was actually there today. It was nice.
You said celebrated?
The noon mass, yeah. But I am really happy in this new position. It's a very different schedule, as Joey mentioned. I should just call you the prodigal so everyone's clear on the relationship here.
Yes,
but as the prodigal mentioned to the priest, it involves some traveling. I've been spending the last couple months it feels like every week is different. Like I've helped out at some parishes already on Sunday.
Right.
I have given a vocations talk at a couple different places, including last week at SMU for their first Jericho night this year.
All right.
That was pretty fun.
It's like a night, praise and worship, a talk, adoration, right?
Yeah. And I took like double the time allotted for my talk, which was typical.
Usual.
Yeah, typical. Glad to
so
know I
Jericho,
haven't lost
like
that.
they want the walls of Jericho to fall down, or
yeah, like send the walls crashing down by God's power, and we build up these walls in our hearts. I spun it towards vocations, like what is God's plan for me? Do I have walls that are preventing me from even considering it?
I've been meaning to tell Nikki. I've been discerning.
Once you heard about how many silent retreats,
once I heard how many silent retreats you got, and we have 3 kids, I remembered. Oh, Can I like enter the priesthood late?
Hey, let's talk.
Let's talk.
That's my job now.
That's your job. So the funny part, though, when all that went down, and I think we can say this is, so you meet with Bishop Burns, and he says you can't tell anyone, right? Because you asked.
Yeah. Of course.
You're like, can I tell anyone?
And I said, especially my podcast partner and closest confidant.
Which, I mean, it is kind of funny. We talked often, we texted often, we hung out a lot. And all I knew is you were like, oh, it's interesting. I got a call from the bishop. Nothing. Yeah.
I slipped up. I shouldn't have even admitted that. Because people who know that means something. Something's going to happen.
But I'm not a priest, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But then you didn't say anything. You held it. And I resented you a little bit and respected you a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But all you said to me, do you remember what you said to me?
I remember. Yeah.
You said
you asked me, am I going to be happy or sad? And I said,
a very Joey Scansella thing.
Yeah. You were trying to do like 20 questions or something, and I was dodging pretty well. And then I was like, you know what? I think you're going to be both. Little of both. Little happy,
Little of both.
sad.
And so that's what I had for, 3 weeks, 4 weeks almost?
It was a long time where you were just puzzling over that.
Yeah.
Like,
and I tried to respect it. I
Rubik's
think I
Cube or
respected
something.
it pretty well. I didn't push too far.
yeah.
And so then the day before the ordinations, we get a all-staff meeting called by our then pastor, now retired, Father Henry. And Father Henry and you were there and announced that, hey, it is true. I am officially retiring for Father Henry, right?
We were all shocked.
Exactly. And so he announced to the whole staff like the first shocking news, which is your new pastor is going to be
A pastoral administrator by the name of Father
Edwin Leonard. And everybody looked at, in case people don't know this, Father Edwin's mom is on staff. She works in the children's ministry department. And so everybody like shot to her, just looking at her as she like kind of hit her face and didn't know what emotion to have, joy, tears, fear, any of it, so, which is funny because at one point Father Henry told her, well, you'll never have to worry about Father Edwin being pastor here because you guys would have to be dead. And so the story goes that Mary told me, right before the meeting, Father Henry said to her, well, I guess you better start planning your funeral. So
he's good with those.
He's good with those little zingers. Yeah. So he announces that everybody's just shocked because, and it's kind of good to share this for the average person. I mean, it is a big deal. It's not just like, it's not like you being named pastoral administrator here because you didn't grow up here.
No.
Like, you don't have deep roots here.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably one of the biggest shocks I've ever seen in my 10 years in the diocese as a youth minister and hearing assignments because of how deep the Leonard roots are in, just, I think his parents were one of the founding families and he grew up here and went through Life Teen and, all the ministries and that. And obviously like went off, been vocation director and doing a great job as pastor in continuing to follow up on what Father Henry put forward. But I mean, people were like jaw-dropping shocked.
Yeah. It's something that like I think people didn't dare to dream that could have happened because that's just not like you don't normally go to your home parish like that. And yeah, I think it's really exciting for this parish. Also, it was kind of perfect because his first weekend here, the gospel was a prophet is not welcome. How's it go? I always get confused. The prophet is welcome except in his own town or is not welcome in his own town.
I always say a prophet is not welcomed in his own.
Yeah, there's some I think it's a triple negative and
you would know that.
I don't know.
Yeah, so everybody's in shock.
Bible.
But then the gasp comes when Father Henry also announces, well, obviously that leaves a vacancy in our vocation, and Father Paul Bechter is going to be filling that. And then he says, and Father Francisco is being moved as well. So they just they cleared house.
Yeah, complete reboot.
Yeah, and so Father Francisco ended up going to
St. Anthony and Wiley,
and their parochial vicar, Father Ramiro Alvarez, came here. So we have Father Ramiro Alvarez, our pastoral administrator, Father Edwin, and then a newly ordained Father Samuel Martinez. And he's part of the Neo-Catechumenal Way, and I'm sure we'll talk about that at some episode or something like that. And so we have, quite the experience. But it threw everything for a loop because, I mean, you had things planned. You were coming on Laredo, different things like that. Father Edwin, he had things planned. He's also... What is it, the conference you're going to? He works with them.
Oh, the NCDVD, National Conference of Diocesan Vocation Directors.
Yeah, so he's working with many different things, and then all of a sudden it's like...
Yeah.
And then the ordinations happen the next day, at St. Anne's because we have the best live stream in the diocese, and in my opinion, and
Joey built the live stream.
if you build it, he will come. And so we have a great live stream. We were able to live stream the ordinations, and they announced it, and it was crazy how it spread. Like a staff member. First off, people were texting me like, have you heard? I'm like, yeah, I'm on staff, people. Yes, I heard a day ago. You know, like, but it was so funny. So many people were texting me like, how do you feel? I'm like, I probably got more texts than that than when Sophia was born. I'm like, what? How do you feel? How are you doing? I'm like, good. I'm excited. You know,
little happy,
like,
little sad.
Yeah, little happy, little sad. And I was like, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. And so
you were close to figuring it out too.
I was close. In my head, I was like, I went down so many scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what's that movie with Matt Damon? And he's writing on all the chalkboards, the math equations. Is it Good Will Hunting?
I don't know. Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Mind, all those.
Like, they're all the same thing.
I'm just like on whiteboards and windows, writing with Sharpie markers, being like, what's the equation?
You've got
what's
the string
formula?
up, connecting things.
Your face is on the wall. Father Edwin's, Father Henry's, Father Francisco's. You've
got like the blown up picture of Father Kevin's head on the
yes,
on the wall.
Yeah, we still do. But it's funny now. Father Kevin's been gone for a while. You know, from St. Anne's. That sometimes people are like, who's that guy hanging up on your wall? I'm
that's
like,
right.
Father Kevin.
So
you transition July 1st.
Yeah.
What have you been up to in the time? People ask like, how's Father Paul? How's he doing? I'll be honest, like I said, this is probably one of the longest periods of time we've hung out since you've become vocation director.
It's true.
Besides once or twice watching a game or something like that, but your schedule has changed greatly.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out. But basically, I've become the prodigal now. I'm just journeying off to distant lands.
And I am the priest in the line of
right.
Melchizedek.
Holding down the fort. So I've been doing all sorts of stuff. It's been a really, the best image I've come up with for what this last 2 months has felt like has been like in the middle of a gear shift. And people who drive manual cars or whatever, like get it. I grew up driving a moped that was like a dirt bike, so it was manual. So you had the clutch. I learned on
a manual 1984 Dodge Dakota.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. But so when, say you're in first gear and you've got it revved up and you're going kind of as fast as you can without burning something out in first gear. And then you pull in the clutch, you shift gears, and in that kind of interval while the clutch is pulled in, you're like this. It's like you're in outer space for a little bit.
You're just
like
free.
Like the engine isn't engaged anymore. And so you're just coasting. And then as you let the clutch back out, the gear re-engages. And if you do it well and don't stall it or something by letting it out too fast, the gear gradually re-engages and you can feel it picking up speed again. And now it's going to go faster because you've probably downshifted. But that's how I felt. I felt like the clutch has been in. And I've been slowly letting it out as I get my mind around what this position entails and what is the best strategy to going forward. And I've been to an NCDVD conference, so National Conference of Vocation Directors, Diocesan Vocation Directors, and it was their Institute for New Vocation Directors. And it was awesome. It was kind of like a retreat. In parts, and it was also kind of like networking with other new vocation directors and learning from some of the old guys like Father Edwin.
The old guys.
I know. The ones with experience.
The old 38-year-olds.
Yeah, that's right. Grizzled, weather beaten. So my kind of goals right now, that the clutch is all the way out and I'm engaged into this new gear of being vocation director, they're to get to know the diocese a lot better because I'm not from here. I think you'll know that. I'm from Bermuda. I grew up in the island of Bermuda, like the triangle, and I always have to say it because people think it's Bermuda, Texas.
Is there a Bermuda, Texas?
There might be, but they just assume that there is.
Oh,
because there's in everything else, Texas.
There's like in Italy, Texas, and all
Italy and Paris.
Oh, I forgot you guys say Italy.
Italy,
Texas.
Yeah. So anyway, so coming over here, like I think I've also told my vocation story before and why I feel so at home in Dallas. It's where I found my faith and where I heard the call to the priesthood. But it doesn't mean I know this place well. I know parts of it well, and I know like pockets of parishioners and different things like that. So that's one of the goals right now, is to get to know the parishes, get to see the different youth groups, get to speak at places like SMU and at our high schools, and just to get to know the lay of the land. Because you kind of have to do like a sort of reconnaissance, or you have to reconnoiter. I always thought that was a cool word, kind of British, but before you can form a strategy of like where you're going to invest your attention and energies to promote vocations and things like that. And that's the stage I'm in right now. So I'm trying to, if you happen to be listening, here's a plug. If you happen to be listening and able to invite me to something to come speak,
somebody's
or to
like,
get to know you better.
Come to dinner at my house.
No, like particularly what I mean is like youth stuff or parish stuff. But that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm also learning from Father Zach. So I work with Father Zach Webb as part of the vocations office team. He's
St. Anne person too. Shout out.
Shout out. He is the director of seminarians. So a lot of people come up to me and say like, how many seminarians do we have? And I'm like, I don't really know. I don't look at that number that much. And I should know.
You were about
honestly.
to say, I don't care. You're like, I don't know. I don't care.
I should know,
Right.
but that's not directly my responsibility. I assist in that.
Right.
Because we have divided the position. So he's in charge of current seminarians. I'm in charge of getting new seminarians.
Got it.
And accompanying the guys who are discerning. And so here's another plug, which I'm sure I'll come back to many times from this very powerful and wide-reaching platform. If you are thinking about becoming a priest, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Go to our website, which is dallasvocations.com.org, one of the two. I can't remember.
You are going to make a fine vocations director.
Search for Dallas Vocations on Google and then see what it
pretty sure
fills
it's
it in.
.org.
I think it's .org too. So that's what I'm doing. I feel settled now. I feel like the gears are engaged and they're pulling forward. I've met with several guys already to help them discern, and I think this next year is going to involve a lot of learning for me.
A lot of those times where you're on an incline at a light and you're waiting for, I remember, is like the most terrifying thing after learning how to, do a stick shift. And it was like, you're on that incline and you're just like, oh no, someone's pulling up behind me. And it's just like, you either
close. Don't get too close.
you either just burn rubber. You're like, slam it down.
Whoa, before you let up the clutch.
Let up the clutch. So it's going to be a lot of that for you this year. Or stalling out.
So just as long as we're going back to the manual transmission analogy, my motorbike when I was 16 had what's called an open stack, which allowed it to get more air into the carburetor and the whole mix. But it also meant that when it rained, it would sometimes get water in there.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time I was at a friend's house and it was evening, and then it was night, and then I was ready to go home, and it had poured rain outside. In Bermuda, we get these like squalls that just pop up and torrential downpour for like 3 minutes, and then they go.
Yeah.
Kind of Texas-ish.
Yeah.
And it had flooded completely, like literally flooded the carburetor through that open stack. And the only way to get it out, other than just waiting for a long time or disassembling it, is to run it manually. So like to engage the gear and to sit on the motorbike on an incline downhill and
pop
just
the clutch, right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Just let the clutch out and just let it like sort of grind. Like it's not going to turn on because you can't get the spark in there with the water, but like it's just working that water through. And I had to push that bike up a hill many times. I don't remember how many. It's a montage in my mind. So like 10 times or something. Like push it up there, sit on it, and then just like ride it down. And then finally, it turned over, and it was just such a sort of like
glorious
soggy but glorious sound. It was like pop, 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 pop. Like it's barely on. Gave it some gas, but
did you relive this because you also vacationed in Bermuda? You went to see your parents and vacation. Like, did you get to relive your glory days of riding the stick shift?
I did not.
You didn't rent a car?
You can't rent a car there. It's very confusing.
You cannot?
Cannot. So Bermuda is an interesting place. It's British. You drive on the left. It's small, so the roads are one way each way. A lot of them are just designed for like 2 lanes, but one way each way. A lot of them are designed for horse and buggy, so they're not wide. The cars are very small, and for those reasons, among others, they don't want people don't have the space. Like there's no car rentals. You can rent a moped.
Did you do that?
No, they were kind of expensive. I just took the bus, and my parents drove me around.
Oh man!
But
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, they're like 50 cc's though. Like it's like less than a lawnmower engine. They're going like 20K.
Dom's passing you on a scooter.
That's right. No, somebody could coast on a bicycle down a hill and sometimes pass you.
Oh my gosh!
Because bicycles can pick up a lot of speed.
So we're not talking like Italian Vespa-esque things, a
lot of them
similar.
Yeah, I thought those were lame when I was in high school. Now I think they're cool. Yeah. But in high school, I thought they were lame, so I got like a dirt bike. It's a Yamaha DT. But
nice.
But yeah, the Vespa type things are the more normal motorbikes that they have there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went back to Bermuda earlier this summer, in that period of the clutch being all the way pulled in, and got to visit my parents for the last time before they moved from Bermuda. They've lived there for 27 years.
Wow.
We moved there when I was 6, and they were there on a work permit the whole time, renewing it every 3 years. There's no real path to citizenship or residency for them, so we knew that we were going to have to move eventually. But basically, my dad's job closed its office in Bermuda, and he can work remotely,
right? But
he can't live there without the physical office because of the work permit.
Got it.
So they had to move, and they actually moved just earlier this month, and I managed to sort of nip over there and see them right before they left.
Over there?
Yeah, a quick little nip over.
Quick little nip. You brought my family back some rum cake, Bermudian rum cake,
and
pretty
some
good.
Sand.
And some pink sand, some coveted pink sand that I am willing to sell on the black market if anybody wants it. So that's what we've been up to. Me, I've just been slaving away as youth minister.
In the grind.
Children's ministry kicked off. So yeah, it's going great, but we're excited to bring you Prodigal and the Priest season 2. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about books. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about what we're watching, reading, and thinking. We're going to talk about the hot topics that you all have questions about in the Catholic faith.
Maybe even a little sports. Can we talk about a little sports?
Exactly.
We've really traveled far from our roots.
Yeah.
Kind of out of necessity.
But
just a little.
It is
sports.
fantasy football time again.
It is.
We will be in the wage of battle soon, like just going at it, me and you. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I'm pretty confident in my team. Who's my quarterback again? Oh yeah, Super Bowl champion Tom Brady.
Okay,
TB12.
You don't even like Tom Brady that much.
It's true.
So get out.
But you were
of
like,
here.
ooh, big big gamble rolling the dice, and then he came
I
through.
think that was
week.
my wife who said that anyway.
Oh.
But thanks. Yeah.
All right,
All right. We'll do it. So we're so on that note, we're so glad that you all are going to join us on this journey for season 2. We're excited to bring it to you. So send us those topics, send us those questions. prodigalandthepriest@gmail.com or stparish.org/PTP. We want to say on behalf of Joey Scansella, Father Paul Bechter, take care.
God bless.